What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Specifically, I actually want to target this video for working engineers who want to move up into a managerial position and they have an interview. So this video is going to be focused on sharing advice and tips that can help you prepare for that interview and make sure that you ace it. Right. So in order to make this easy to follow, I actually developed a framework around it, which I think will make it easier to memorize and follow and keep in your head. Right. So I like to call it the 3R framework. Right, because it's based around 3 R's basically. So I'm just gonna go and read them. First thing that you gotta do is getting your mind right. So you gotta get your mind right, and this is just more so about your psychology and your mentality going into the job interview and preparing for the interview, because this is the first step. It's the foundation. If you don't really have your mind right, nothing else that follows will matter, right? So you gotta think a certain way, you gotta have certain beliefs. So that's the first R, right? So just the right, getting your mind right. And then once you have your mind right, you need to get your intel right. So by intel here, I mean information, right? Information about the job, right? What was it about your experience that they had? What was it about your experience that made you actually secure an interview? So getting your intel about the company, about the job, and about your experience, and what about your experience the company found valuable. The third R is getting your delivery right. This is just more so about what you need to how to prepare for the day of, what to bring with you on the day of, and what you should be getting ready to say during the said interview. So now we're gonna go into detail into each one of these steps actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and break it down for you and give you examples. As always, if you find this helpful, make sure that you hit and subscribe, like this video and the subscribe button below. And I'm actually going to go ahead and put a link to this for the PDF version, so you can actually grab this if you want, and you can print it and then you can go through it, as a checklist or as a check sheet while you're preparing for any upcoming job interviews that you have. So let's go back from the top. Again, the 3 R's. So getting your mindset right, getting your intel right, and then getting your delivery right. 3 R's, okay? So let's start from the top. Getting your mindset right. What does this entail? What you gotta think about is you did not land that job interview by mistake. So think about that. Sometimes many of us may struggle with confidence and belief in our ability and capacity to do something, right? So we might show up at the job interview, maybe not sure if we're the right person for this job or the right candidate. The interviewer can sense that, right? And if you're interviewing for a management position, you need to really be confident and believe in yourself, because other people might be answering to you and you don't want to be second guessing or doubting yourself, right? And you don't want to portray that. So getting your mindset before you get to the interview is going to be very important, right? And if you're struggling, this is the things that you should think about. You did not land a job interview by mistake. So there was some experience in your resume, right? You have something, you put something in there that made the company look at it and say, okay, I think this person might be right for this job. So they already want you. That's why they bring you in for an interview. So you have to go in there like you already have it, and practice and act as if you already have the job, and talk about the jobs in terms of as if you already had it. So believing in yourself. And if that's not enough for you, this is kind of funny. It might hurt some, but it drives the point across. There is someone out there right now, right, who is less qualified than you, who is farther ahead in their career than you, and who makes more than you because they believed in themselves. It's just because they believe in themselves, right? And when you believe and get your mindset right, you actually opening up yourself and your mind. You're preparing your mind to be ready to accept that and actually succeed in it. Because even if you don't have 100% of the experience, you can learn throughout the process and improve and be better, right? So it doesn't have to be an all or nothing type of situation. We all have areas to improve on. So remember that they want you because they think you are a right candidate for this job. So believe that, accept that, and carry yourself that way. Don't come to the interview nervous or thinking about you might not be for the right for this job, or come with an imposter syndrome. So you got to get that out of the way, right? Do whatever you need to do to come in there believing that you are the right candidate for this job. I just shared how. Once you have your mindset right, the next thing you want to do is getting your intel right. So getting intel right, this entails, again, learning about the company, learning about the job you're interviewing for more, and then learning about what was it about your experience that made the company interested in you. Now, this last part may be hard to figure out, but the simplest way to do it is just reach out to the person who interviewed you, and I would say, or schedule the interview for you. And maybe don't put it in writing, because maybe they may take it the wrong way. But if you have a contact person, someone you can call, I'd just call them and say, hey, thank you again for the interview. I'm looking forward to seeing you and talking to you in person, talking to your team. Do you mind if I ask you, what was it about my resume that made you interested in interviewing me for this position? Right? Now, when you ask an open-ended question like that, you actually may be able to word an email as well. When you ask an open-ended question like that, what's gonna end up happening is the HR team or the other person is gonna think about it, and they're gonna give you share information, right, about you that they saw, that they found, hey, okay, maybe this is a good fit because this is what we're looking for. So what they're actually doing for you is showing you where there is an overlap between experience and responsibilities, right? So you need to write this stuff down. This is going to be golden information, because the person who schedules your interview might not be the person interviewing you, right? So the person that you go to and meet during the day off, they might be looking at your resume for the first time, and they may not know about the job description written. That might be an HR thing. The more information you can have and you can prepare to articulate and convey, the better for you. What else can you ask about this? So I would try to find out specific things. So for example, right, what specific items on your resume were they interested in? Is it maybe some of the projects you have on there? Is it previous positions that you've held? Or is it maybe previous industries that you worked in? Or is it all of the above, or a combination of the above? Write all of this stuff down, right? So that's the first step, getting your intel right. Find out what is it about your experience that made the company interested in interviewing you. So once you have that, then you go to B. Find out how your experience relates to the responsibility of the job. Write this down as well. And then C, locate any publicly accessible information about the company relating to what you'd be working on if you're hired. What do I mean by this? So if the company is hiring you to manage a project that is maybe remote, right? What project is this? What type of deliverables are they looking for you to handle? Try to get as much intel as you can find. What this can help you do, again, I'll tell you in the next step, but find out all this information, just write it down in your notes. Once you have that, now we're gonna go to the third R, which is getting your presentation right. The first bullet point is really easy, because getting your presentation or delivery right, the first step is just how you look, right? So this is your physical appearance, and this is gonna be the easiest aspect of this, right? Make sure you are clean, right? Well groomed, well dressed. Now this may change. So for example, for my management interview, I actually was coming from a job site to go to interview. So my clothes weren't really the cleanest because, again, I was coming from a job site that was outside. It's dusty, dust everywhere, mud everywhere. So I wasn't the cleanest person, but I still try to present myself well. And when I got to the office, I explained to them the situation. Listen, I'm actually coming from a project right now, so where I'm working at, it's not clean, it's dirty, or I don't really have nice clothes, but I still presented myself well, shirt tucked in, dress shoes, things like that. But of course I had jeans on. So I had a dress shirt with the sleeves folded up to my elbows. So things like that, but they understood because it was the nature of what I did. So that's fine. But presentation is key. In that case, it helped me because it reinforced again what they were hiring from, which was my project management experience. So hey, I'm actually coming from managing a project right now. So it worked in my favor. That actually is part of the delivery. So for you, depending on the nature of what you're interviewing for, what can you do to help just subtly drive the point across? How can you drive the point across without actually saying it? What are verbal cues that you can use in your physical appearance to help convey the same message? That will be highly beneficial. That's A, physical appearance. That's the easiest, right? Then this is verbal communication. This is where you practice. This is the part people hate the most, but this is really where you practice speaking about the intel that you gathered in the second R, right? So in the second R, where you were gathering all that intel and I asked you to write it down, now this is where you actually review it and practice conveying it. If you want, you can stand in front of the mirror and practice talking about each bullet point, topic or experience number one, this, I did this, and this relates with the job, with the responsibilities, or with what I'm having to do here in this manner or in that manner, and just go and practice it. You may not need it, but just have a short pitch that you can easily rehearse, right? And the best way to do this, again, is not like to try and memorize. The best way to do this is just maybe like do bullet points and then store them in your mind, and then maybe have a card and look at it throughout the day, right? If you interview 5 days away, just look at it daily. This, that, right? Whatever you have on your resume, make sure you're able to convey it and you're able to relate it to the job that you're interviewing for. Third step, right? Now, for the second step here, where the verbal delivery is important, what helps me is just thinking about the who, the what, the why, the where, the when, and the outcome, right? Who, what, why, where, when, outcome. Sometimes how much is also important, meaning that in terms of scale, right? What is the scale of the project you worked on? Are we talking like a $5,000-$10,000 job? Are we talking $1 million project? Are we talking tens of millions of dollars project? That is all important because it really shows, it helps convey again that same message, which is you know what you're talking about, you know what you're doing, and you're the right candidate for this job. C, right? Now, this is the hack that nobody really thinks about. This is old school. I actually got it from a book when I was reading Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It was about this kid who wanted a job, and he actually made a brochure about what he would do if he was hired for that position. So that's what I would recommend you do. So for example, again, my last job interview I had a physical binder that I put dividers in. So I think I had 5 or 6 dividers. So some of the dividers were about work samples on communication, because the job I was interviewing for, they cared a lot about your ability to communicate and convey ideas and messages and deal with conflict by email. So I actually printed Of course, now I didn't display any information that could jeopardize my employer at the time or things like that, right? But I printed work samples of basically email samples of me writing things, right? Me going back and forth with clients, me actually professionally disagreeing with certain things or suggest certain things. I printed all of that. I put it in a divider that had just communication on it. I put it in there, and I had also dividers for technical experience. So that technical experience, it was broken down by maybe engineering designs, drawings. I even had hand calculations. So for example, on one of my projects, we were expected to design supporting mechanism to lift really heavy objects. I don't want to get into the details. Again, I don't want to get in trouble, but basically the company that I worked for, what I had to do at the time, I literally had to use all of my machine design knowledge, statics knowledge, dynamics, combine all of that, make sketches, make hand calculations on my notebook, and actually submit it before the design was approved in order to use in the project, right? I had to submit it to the principal engineer of our client, of the GC. I printed that, right? I made a copy of that and I displayed it again to just show my technical adeptness, right? And showing my technical expertise. Sometimes something like that, it's hard for you to explain what you did. So having actually something that you can show makes a big difference, right? A picture speaks 1,000 words, right? A physical object speaks 1,000 words. You may not be able to convey all of that in person, and you might not have the time to convey all of that. But if you can show it, it says a lot more. I had management experience as well. So again, this kind of broke down the monetary value of the projects I worked on, number of people that reported to me, right? Or I had clients or external stakeholders I had to deal with and manage, number or amount of bidding and quoting experience that I've had, and also project schedule that I made for actual real projects, right? Things like that. I looked for all of that, right? Now, mind you, yes, I looked for all of that. It wasn't too much. I printed it, right? I put it in a nice physical binder, and I took it to the interview with me. I'll share basically what ended up happening was about 60 or 70% of the interview was just actually me going through the binder and showing what I had done and letting my interviewers look at it. It did 70% of the talking for me, because I actually drove the conversation towards where my skills lied, towards what were my strengths, right? And they had follow-up question for each one of those things. They had technical questions they asked me. So one of the things that popped in my head was there were some areas where I had to use bolts and nuts to hold on to something for the force. And then I had a specific grade of bolts. I think I had SAE grade 8 or grade 9. And then, the interview, he asked me like, hey, why didn't you use grade 5? And I had to explain, well, it has something to do with the tensile strength, because the nature of the job and what was happening, the bolt was going to go under high tensile strength, right? And I had to use this grade that was rated for this amount in order to make sure that it wouldn't fail during the application. So be mindful now with this. Don't take credit for something you didn't do, because if they ask you questions on it, you want to be able to convey and again explain clearly. But beyond even that, even if you can convey and explain clearly, make sure you convey your own work, right? Don't steal someone else's work. If it's a group effort, make sure you mention that, and then you share what aspect of the work you did, right? But this is the third step, which is getting your delivery right. Now, delivery again is composed of three things, which is your physical appearance, your verbal communication, and then your work samples or data that you can provide. So Let's recap here. 3 R's, right? How to prepare for a management position, how an engineer should prepare for a management position. If I was interviewed for another management position today, or if I was coaching someone, this is what I would tell them. I would make sure they do this, and I would walk them through it, make sure they practice it. 3 R's. Getting your mindset right. Remember, you earned your spot to be there, right? Don't let imposter syndrome stop you. Number 2, get your intel right. Number 3, get your presentation right or delivery right. Yeah, if you get these 3 right, you have already put yourself way ahead of anyone else who's being interviewed for their position, because I guarantee you they're going to come there with a 1-page resume thinking that will be enough, right? So again, this is comments. If you think about it, oftentimes for a management job, you have to do this stuff anyways. You have to come prepared. Let's say you might be in a high client meeting where you need to come prepared, have your information, have documents, supporting documentation. Why are you doing it? Think about it, right? If you get hired for the position, this is what you end up doing anyways. So pretend like you already have the position. Pretend like this is your first assignment. Get it done right. And I guarantee it will take you a long way. Like I said, in the show notes, if you want a physical copy of this, the notes, you can grab them. You can just use it as a checklist as you go through it, as you prepare your own set of documents and intel. Go get that job. You got this.